This meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals is hereby called to order. This board was established pursuant to Section 519.13 of the Ohio Revised Code by the Anderson Township trustees to provide administrative relief to any person or entity adversely affected by the Anderson Township zoning resolution. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Rick Overton.
Here.
Brian Ella.
Here.
Brian Sanders.
Here.
Fred Hayes.
Here.
Steve Haver.
Here.
Thank you for coming to this meeting. Please be aware that the meeting is audio and videotaped and may be carried live on cable television. I'll outline our procedures. A summary of the appeal is presented by the staff, and then the appellant will present its case. Board members may then ask questions of the appellant. After that, all persons supporting the appeals will be permitted to testify one at a time after being recognized by the chair. When those persons supporting the appeal are finished, those opposed to the appeal will be then permitted to testify and or ask questions of the board after being recognized by the chairman. All persons wishing to testify, whether for or against an appeal, may do so only after being sworn in. When testifying, each person must come forward to the podium. You can pick either one. And please state your name, address, and affiliation to the case. All testimony is given to the board. No comments are to be directed to the applicant or anybody else in the audience. The board will hear only new, non-repetitive evidence or questions. Should someone wish to show support of previous testimony, they may do so by following the testimony procedures and stating their support. Now, we ask anybody who's going to testify this evening to stand, raise your right hand. When in doubt, stand, doesn't hurt. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Any changes to the agenda tonight? Okay. First thing up, I guess, is approval of minutes. I don't know if anybody else, I know Brian and I gave a few comments on the cleanup item. I don't know if anybody else had any further comments.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of November 1st, 2012 as amended.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
Aye.
Okay. Case 11, 2012, BZA. Allison?
Sure. The applicant for this piece is Scott Schaefer of EMH&T on behalf of P&K Ohio LLC, which is the property owner. That's Pinnacle. The location is 6301 Kellogg Road, and this is in the H Riverfront District. The request is for two variances tonight, the first being to allow a building height of 50 feet as well as a grandstand height of 60 feet, where 45 feet is the maximum height permitted within the H Riverfront District. The second variance request is for a chain link fence 7 feet in height with barbed wire, where a maximum of 6 feet in height is permitted. Here we have a location map of the site. You can see it takes up a large portion of this H Riverfront District area. Surrounding is E-retail directly across the street, as well as A residential. The request is for pretty much an overall site redevelopment. The existing grandstand and clubhouse are proposed to be demolished and then rebuilt. This portion where they are currently will become a parking area. The new structures will be located in this area, and there are some changes to the barns over here as well. This is an aerial photo of existing conditions at the site. It's approximately 98 acres and has a frontage of 2,965 feet on Kellogg Road. It is within the floodplain, and there's a decrease in elevation going towards the Ohio River. So the applicant is proposing the construction of a 208,350 square foot structure. It'll consist of a gaming area, grandstand, restaurant, as well as office uses. They're also proposing to reposition the track, as well as include a new stable, tack rooms, and other accessory structures. There's obviously new parking, as well as lighting and landscaping on the site. This structure right here is where we are proposing the 50-foot in height, and then here is the 60-foot. The racetrack was opened in 1925 and then changed names to River Downs after a flood in 1937. The turf course was added in 1956 and the grandstand replaced in 1988. Since then, most of the development on site has been that the grandstand received an updated awning in 2005, and then in 2011, a manure storage area was constructed in this portion of the site. Here we're seeing some proposed elevations of the building. In this area is the 50 feet in height, and then the 60 feet is this grandstand. This view is looking at the structure from Kellogg Road. The second view would be looking at the structure from the Ohio River. The structure is elevated in order to keep it out of the floodplain, and this area here would contain a parking garage at ground level. We've got some photos of existing conditions here. You're looking at the existing structure. This is the view north from the proposed new parking area on the western portion of the site. This is a view from that same parking area looking southwest at a bit of Coney Island and also River Bend. This is a view looking west at the existing grandstand. In this location will be also the new building. This is the view seeing north from the proposed structure, and then again northwest. This is looking south at the existing track. In this area will also be the newly repositioned track. And this is a view looking at the existing fencing there. This is what the second variance request is for, is the fencing. So staff feels that the height variance is not substantial. Neighboring structures at River Bend are currently 65 feet, received variance for that. The existing grandstand is estimated to be about 67 feet in height, so this new structure will be shorter than that. The building height of 50 feet and grandstand height of 60 are within the character of the area, and it will not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. Staff also finds that the spirit and intent of the zoning requirement will be observed. For the second variance request for the fence, the height of the fence is really not substantial. This style and height currently exist in the area. The relocation and replacement of it will not alter the existing character of the area. It should not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, and the spirit and intent of the zoning resolution will be observed.
One question for you for clarification for the board. The package we received had a third variance.
The sidewalk variance request has been asked to be pulled from the agenda by the applicant, and we will be meeting between Pinnacle as well as staff next week to establish an agreement that meets the requirements of Section 144B.
Okay, so we only have two of the variances in front of us. Thank you. Other questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Allison, the zoning resolution calls for additional setback for buildings of a higher height. Are the setbacks, you didn't speak to the setbacks at all in your
Sure.
staff report. Are the setbacks any issue, or are they far enough back off of the
They're
primary?
far enough back. That section speaks to an additional setback for a maximum of 45 feet. So when we reached that maximum, it just became a height variance rather than setback. The closest that the structure will get to Kellogg Road is 64 feet.
64? I calculated that it could be as much as 80 that is really required by the
Pardon?
2
80?
foot.
80 would be for the closest that it would get, would be the 64.
I'm not following you. 80 is the closest that it would get?
No, the 64 would be the closest.
I think
That it would come
Fred's
to-
question is, with this height of the building, is the setback requirement 80 feet?
It would be if it were the 45 feet, but since we're going to 50.
In other words, are we varying the setback as well as the height?
The request is for the height variance. At that point, the setback that is established through that portion of the zoning resolution does not come into play in the same way.
So we're okay on the setback? Okay. And on the government services, that includes fire? There's no trouble with the extra height on the fire? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Yes, I had one question. I was curious, this goes, I guess, to the fence. understanding, I guess, the code really doesn't speak to the fence materials necessarily.
No, it
But
doesn't.
what did staff find out about, I guess from staff perspective, on the security needs requiring like a barbed wire fence
Sure.
being so prominent?
Our code does not prohibit barbed wire, and I spoke with Lieutenant Hartzler from District 5, who said he felt that that would be an adequate security measure in this area.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have one question of clarification. The existing fencing that's there is how tall?
The existing fencing is the 7 feet
Is
with
7
barbed
feet,
wire.
so
yeah.
okay. Thank you. Thank you. Questions? Would the applicant like to come to the podium and state your name, address, and any affiliation?
Good evening. I'm Scott Schaefer with EMH&T. Address is 5500 New Albany Road, Columbus, Ohio, 43054. And I'm the civil engineer on the project representing PNK. With staff's recommendation to approve both the variance for the fence and the building height, I'm not sure that we have much to offer. I guess at this point I would probably just, in regard to the fence, as I think the last question just pointed out, the existing fence currently is 7 feet, and so the intent of the variance is to not only bring any new fence that would be added to the barn area, to code or, to be okay, but also then any existing fence that remains, which there will be a large portion of that to remain, then that is also documented as being okay by the township.
Questions of the applicant? Brian?
Well, right, let's talk about the fence, I guess, because I'm curious about that. I guess I can understand District 5's response that it's adequate, but I guess I was looking for a little bit more. This is going to be an incredible new structure there and investment.
Mm-hmm.
And you see also across the street, a new trail system has gone into place. And I am not understanding a need for, I know we're talking about a height variance for the fence, but I guess I'm not understanding why, at least along the prominent frontage there, that we're even keeping a chain link fence, let alone a barbed wire chain link fence. I think this would be a wonderful opportunity to clean that up. Well, sorry. What is the need for that type of fencing along there?
I may defer here to Kevin Kaufman here, but my understanding is that there is a requirement by, I'm not sure if it's the State Gaming Commission or the Horsemen's Association, but the barnyard area has to have a fence that encloses it for security purposes. People getting in, and also with the horses, if a horse should get loose, there's a containment issue there. In regard to the barbed wire, again, that's a safety thing. The horse, or security, I guess, more than safety, for the horses to come in or to stay within. And Kevin, do you want to come up and add anything to that with regard to the fence requirement?
I hate to do this, but did you stand up and be sworn in? You did? Okay. Thank you. Great.
Brian, are you asking this question from a functional or aesthetic point of view?
Yes, and a security point of view, too.
I'm just trying to get where you're trying to go so I can understand in light of the answer.
Right. I'd say all of the above. I'm curious primarily, and it does pertain somewhat to the variance. So.
Okay.
Okay. If you could state your name for the record and address, please.
Very good.
Kevin Kaufman, I'm the Vice President General Manager of River Downs, 6301 Kellogg Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45230. Regarding the fence, there is regulations that we must keep the backside, as we call it, secure, and that is to keep the folks that have a Ohio license. There's a security checkpoint, and the folks that are allowed on the backside must stop by a security guard shack, be identified, show their Ohio license, and they're allowed in that area. So we need to keep individuals that do not belong back there out of there, and vice versa. So one thing I could say is that we could take a look. I think you bring up a valid point that we do want to make sure it's secure, but we might be able to take a look at it and instead of a chain link fence, do something a little bit different that makes it a little more eye appealing to that. So we would take that under consideration.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I had a question, if I can.
Yes.
Is the exact area of the chain link fence shown, and there's a lot of stuff, is it going all the way around the complex or just on the back by the barns?
No, the chain link fence actually goes on the front side, is the picture that you see right there, right off of Kellogg, and it goes
Right.
all the way around the area designated as the barns, the test barn, the receiving barn. So it is,
But not all the way down to Coney?
no, not all the way down to Coney, just back where the barn area is.
It does kind of, the plan indicates it does. As I'm looking at it, I see the plan, the image identified as the 7-foot chain link barbed wire fence, at least on page Z1.04, goes all the way off the page. Let's see here.
No, it doesn't.
It continues.
I see what you're saying.
There's no chain link fence there now. Now there is a chain link fence between River Bend and River Downs.
I don't see that going across the entire frontage. I see it just past the barn and then dropping south towards the track.
Mine shows it does both.
like a T.
Oh,
Continues. Oh, I see it.
Just to clarify, are you looking at the area more or less the,
Yeah.
I'll say the top left of the page underneath where it
Yes.
says Kellogg Avenue?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe that is actually the existing chain link fence. As part of this redevelopment, the barn area is being more condensed to the eastern area. So existing fence actually today goes a little bit farther to the west than what it will in the future. And actually, I think where the fence drops down to the south there, where it says proposed chain link, 7-foot chain link fence with barbed wire, I believe we would actually take out the fence west of that, and it's just errantly been left in our drawing. So where that corner occurs, in that location where the fence drops down to the south, I don't believe there would actually be any fence west of that. It's just, like I said, I believe it was a mistake on our drawing.
So the clear intention is to fence in the barn area?
And that's it, yes.
I see.
In addition to the regulations that you were talking about, were there any height regulations regarding the fence? Or is it just a requirement to make sure that things are contained?
Yeah, in the Ohio State rules regulations, I couldn't find anything that had actual height requirements, but it did state in there that you must have the area on the backside secure.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions of the applicant? Brian?
No, not at this time.
Fred? Just so for clarification, if we might require some modification of this drawing to cut it at where it drops down, and that's your understanding? Okay, thank you.
The only question that I had was regarding the paragraph 2 on your letter. which regarded this platform. In order to meet the requirements that all occupied space be constructed 1 foot above the 100-year floodplain, your 16 feet high raised platform is going to be constructed from the existing ground. So I guess what I'm saying is your floodplain, is your 100-year flood level is going to be 15 feet, and you're going to build up 1 foot above that in order to make a 16-foot high platform.
Yes, excuse me. The plan is to construct the lowest level of the parking structure at elevation 488, which is approximately existing grade in that area today. Then base flood elevation in this area is elevation 502. So that's a 14-foot difference right there.
Okay.
With the regulations, we need to be a minimum of 1 foot above that, which puts us at 503, so that's 15 feet. And then Pinnacle, just to be on the safe side, is actually going another foot additional to that, which puts us at elevation 504, which makes the 16 feet.
Okay. And then underneath, you're going to have parking.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Any follow-up on Brian's questions about the style? Not? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take testimony from anybody else who'd like to speak in favor of this application. Seeing none, if there's anybody who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Seeing none, staff, is there any other information that we need to get on the record as far as you're concerned? If that's the case, we'll close the public hearing portion of Case 11, 2012 BZA, and we'll take it under consideration later this evening. Thank you. Next up, case number 12, 2012 BZA, 7560 Forest Road. Allison, you gonna-
This is 7560 Forest Road. It's the location of Anderson High School. Pete Thomas of Distinctive Signs is here on behalf of Forest Hills Local School District. This variance's request is to allow a freestanding sign which exceeds the maximum square footage allowed in Section 318. And this is located in a B residence district. The school here is a conditional use. However, Section 318, 100, 104 does allow for it to have a sign. Here's a location map showing this property. It's approximately 25 acres with 1,310 feet of frontage along Forest Road, and the topography there is relatively flat. Surrounding uses include a medical facility to the north, and then single family to the south and east. There is single family as well as a church to the west located in this B residence district as well. Here's an aerial photo of the site. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow a freestanding sign which exceeds the maximum 40 square feet permitted. The size of the proposed sign is about 62 square feet with a base of 25, totaling 87.3 square feet. The top portion of this sign is decorative in nature and contains the letter A. The middle portion consists of a name panel as well as changeable text display. And the proposed sign would replace the existing freestanding sign. The existing freestanding sign was constructed at the high school in 1990, and it is currently 40 square feet. It's double-faced and has a changeable copy. In 1996, there were 2 zoning certificates issued, one for a face change to the existing sign and one for a second wall sign. In the past, there have been multiple zoning certificates issued for accessory structures at Anderson High School. We can take a look here at the proposed location of the sign is really just to replace the existing sign. Staff is of the opinion that the requested variance is not substantial. The base of the sign is wider than the sign itself, and the decorative features on the top portion of the sign leave some relatively empty space, which does contribute to our overall signage calculation. However, if you take into account these decorative features, the actual sign area consisting of the name plate as well as the changeable text is about 40 square feet. The requested variance would not substantially alter the essential character of the neighborhood. It is replacing an existing sign, and the adjoining properties would not suffer substantial detriment. The spirit and intent of the zoning resolution will be observed and substantial justice done. There are a mix of uses in the area, including the school as well as the church and residential uses. The proposed sign area is proportional to the frontage that the high school has, and the proposed sign meets the other requirements such as height and setback.
Thank you. Questions from the board for staff? Yes, Fred?
I have a couple. Allison, I could not locate the existing sign very well on this diagram, other than that it was roughly in the same place as the proposed sign.
You see a little bit of a shadow here, and that's the location of the existing sign.
Okay, so the proposed location is exactly the same,
Is in
or
the
just
same
a little
location.
bit south of it?
Here it's shown just a little bit south of it.
But the intention is to remove the old sign and put it essentially in the same place? Okay. The second question, Allison, is when we calculate the sizes of signs, do we normally incorporate the entire structure, or do we normally just calculate the sign area?
Typically, when we see things like pole signs, we do not calculate the pole itself, but the overall cabinet does not contain decorative features like this. When we do monument signage, we do include the base.
So we do normally include the base? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Is there any, on the LED portion, I know we hear these occasionally, is there a limit on the LED portion size? Remember we had one at the mall, and they put a panel out there that's LED, and can it be just the sign size?
I don't know, Paul?
It's 50%.
50%? Okay.
And our LED, that was a text amendment a couple of years ago, actually, that permitted LED signs throughout the township, whereas before, they had setbacks to residential areas.
I remember, yeah.
But there are also parameters as to how often the sign can change, the message, the intensity of the light, flashing, scrolling, how long the message has to stay up, on and on, but, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please? State your name, address, and relation to the case, please.
Okay, thanks for coming out. My name's Pete Thomas with Distinctive Signs. Address is 485 Ohio Pike, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45255. Relation to the case is the PTA actually has asked me to build the sign for them. So I don't know that I have a lot to add other than to try to answer some of the questions that were asked. In relationship to the exact location of the sign, actually the back edge of the new sign will be where the front edge of the existing sign is now. So it will be just 10 feet closer to the road, essentially. The setback right now is, on the existing sign, is roughly 30 feet, and we're going to put it at 20, which is still well within the regulations. You had another question. I'm going to open it up for questions. I don't know how much more I could really add. But.
Is there any particular, I assume not, but I figure I'll ask, any purpose for the artistic flair, the A on the top, or is it strictly aesthetics?
It's all aesthetics. Yeah. The intent was, one thing I will add about when the existing regulations are such that if the sign is 6 feet or 6 feet tall or less, the brick, if there is brick, is not included in the calculation. Once it goes over the 6 feet, up to a maximum of 10, then the, excuse me, then the brick is included in the overall calculation. So as it stands, you know, the elevation is relatively flat. However, where the sign is, it is roughly, you know, 1 foot maybe below the level of the street, and we felt like we had to raise it up some so that the LED portion, you know, would be easily read. The intent, obviously, behind an LED is to have some changeable copy, get some messages out, get, you know, events that are happening at the high school, get those on display, versus what they have now, which is a manual, you know, insert the letters type sign. This would be all controlled inside the school, so a little ease of operation as well.
Is the, are you done, Brian?
I am.
Is the LED, does it have a brightness control on it?
They all do, yeah.
They all
They're-
do
yeah,
anymore?
Yeah.
And what's the color on it? I see one red and one orange.
Yeah, I think that's a printer thing. No, the intent will be orange.
Orange?
Yeah, it's Anderson.
That's a good point. And, you know, I'm always interested in the size because the LEDs are expensive. Is this going to be big enough to be read by the passing vehicle at whatever the speed is there, 30 or 35?
It will be. It actually is as big as current regulations allow. You know, we went into the design part of it at the notion that we were going to keep it within 40 square feet. And 50% of that would be allowed to be the LED, and the other 50% would be the name plate portion. And so, yes, it will be able to be read. I don't know that they'll want to get too elaborate on, you know, the messages that they
Right.
put out, but yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Other questions? Brian, Fred, Steve? Any question? I just have one question. At this height and with it moving closer to Forest Road, no impact on driveway sight lines, particularly
Access
that
and
one to the...
egress on, you know, the closest egress point
Is the one to the north, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you can calculate it from there. I was pretty sure that it was roughly 75 feet away, and it's not an issue at all. As I said, it's still 20 feet back from...
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Anybody else care to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, anybody care to speak in opposition to this application? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on case 2012 BZA. Thank you. Okay. This time, I think we go back to have a discussion, deliberation about the application in case 11, 2012 BZA for the River Downs property. Open it up for any discussion of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I would be in favor of both of these variances for many reasons that we can go into in the particulars when we actually get to the motion, but I would want to make sure that we stipulate that the drawings be corrected to remove all of the fence west of the new barn area, and that the applicant give some consideration to some more eye-appealing materials other than just the chain link.
And the consideration to the eye-appealing materials, is that for all of it or just along Kellogg, in your view?
Just along Kellogg would be the critically important one.
Other
I'm of a similar mindset.
Yes, I agree. I think Mr. Hayes summarized my feelings pretty well. Again, we're not really here to regulate the fence materials, as Ms. Hodson said, it's really not on the table. However, the applicant did say they would consider that. I think it's going to be a wonderful facility, and why not, if you can, fix that up. But I do like the idea of maybe having a condition that, as was indicated, that's, if they must have that's where it would end at that point. As far as the elevation, that's, to me, obviously, there's some hardship there that has to be dealt with.
It's 7 foot shorter than the existing building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with what's been stated.
Entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll give it a try for my first motion. I move that this board approve the variance requested in case number 11, 2012 BZA for the height variance on the structures and on the height restriction of the fence, subject to correction of the drawings to remove all of the fence west of the new barn area, and that the applicant give consideration to employing other more eye-appealing materials than the chain link fence. In support of this motion, I offer that I do not consider the variance substantial. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered, and would not be an impact on adjoining properties. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, as we heard testimony from the staff, and the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirements would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance.
Have a motion? Do I have any friendly amendments to it or seconds?
Do we want to reference the documents? I guess two things, Fred, would be, one would be referencing the documents that it would be in substantial compliance with the documents that were passed out to us. I think there's also a indication that they were going to start construction. When was this? Start construction in 2013 and be complete at some point in 2014. I'm not accessing that information, although I thought it was part of the, is it in the letter? Where is it in the letter?
I don't remember seeing it.
Oh, I bet you I know where I saw it. It was on the web, was on the news. Too much information. Well, then it'll be completed by the end of 2014. I don't, unless we know among us, we can pin it down closer.
I would, this is such a big project, I'd rather give a lot more time
Okay.
than, I mean, if they hit some other issue or some regulatory issue, and if we want to say, commence the project within 2 years and finish it within 4, we don't want to hang it out for decades, but I personally would like to see a lot more time. This is
It's a big project,
as
yeah,
this township
right.
gets.
Right. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Yeah, sure.
Any other?
Fred, you and,
I agree.
Good.
Those are friendly modifications.
Yeah, okay.
I agree.
Any others? A second to that motion?
I'll second.
Betty, can we have a roll call?
Brian Elliott,
Aye.
Brian Sanders,
Aye.
Fred Hayes,
Aye.
Steve Haver,
Aye.
Rick Oversmith.
Aye. I should have said this before we took that vote for those in the audience. That's what we refer to as our straw ballot. We'll actually get a formal typed resolution that cleans up that language and approve that yet again this evening. But you have an indication of where we are on it. Thank you. Case 12, 2012, BZA, Forest Hills Local School District sign. Anderson High School, any thoughts or comments?
I guess for me, the thing that strikes me most about it is, although, I guess from the materials given to us, there's some debate of whether it's substantial or not. Do we count the base? Do we not count the base? We are counting the base, so it's substantial, but is it really part of the sign or not? Indications in the staff report and from the presentation are it's really not. I think the LED, it's totally acceptable in Anderson Township. It's useful for the high school who's constantly changing events. People use that sign to learn about what's going on at the high school. I know I do all the time when I drive by. There has been concern raised by virtue of, although I learned it's standard now, to be able to control that LED. That was the one thing that I noticed, as it is in a residential neighborhood. But overall, I'd say because of the size of that building, I don't see this variance being substantial, is my view, because that building is so large. And it's really, in my view, that is really one sign that people rely on a lot for informational purposes. So the extent that it may be somewhat larger than normal, I think would justify a variance. And the artistic elements to it, I really think that is enhances the school and the school's image. Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments that we should take into account? Fred?
I was struck as I reviewed the property personally that the existing sign is unbelievably small, tiny. And so while I agree with Mr. Elliff that I do see this as a substantial variance from our zoning resolution, I think it's appropriate in that particular site for that particular purpose.
Steve?
In my mind, I take the base, this masonry base out of it. Certainly, it could be a single pole sign and it wouldn't be considered. But in my mind, the masonry base is certainly an enhancement, and in my mind, shouldn't penalize the overall area. So when I take the base out, I mean, because going from 40 square feet up to 86 square feet seems like a lot to me. And yet when I take the base out, we're only going up to 61 square feet. So, I mean, sheer numbers seems a lot more palatable to me. And then in addition, the graphic, so to speak, on top, in my mind, certainly enhances the sign, and wouldn't want to force compliance by taking away something that I think enhances what we're trying to do here. So,
Thank you.
I'm in agreement.
Right?
Yeah, I agree with the comments on the base, and driving past that area does sit down a good, foot or so off the road. I think the base, quite frankly, is necessary to even see the sign. So I almost discount the base as being a requirement, and the sign sits above it. My initial take before listening to you guys was I had some concerns about the artistic flair at the top. To me, they're in complete compliance, assuming that the bottom is a base, with the Anderson High School and the LED sign. And is the flare required? But then we always get back to this, what's substantial, what's not substantial, right? So you go 40 feet to 60 feet. It sits on a large piece of property, large structure behind it, the school. How do you define substantial in that case? That's where I'm at right now, I guess. So does that become substantial? In somebody's front yard? Yes. In front of the high school? I'm probably in agreement, probably not.
Yeah, the flare, I had to think about that a little bit. And frankly, then I'm not an architect like Steve, but almost from an aesthetic standpoint, no offense to my good friends in Anderson High School, but that is one boring building, and a little flare wouldn't hurt it. But as most high school buildings built in that era are boring buildings. So a little flare, and frankly, I recall last month, I think, similar design, at least on the press box that got approved. So I thought there was some consistency with what they're going to do signage-wise, so. I'll entertain a motion if somebody would like to take a shot at it.
I'll take a shot at my first first motion. I'd like to make a motion in the case number 12-2012 BZA for the request of a variance to allow a freestanding sign which exceeds the maximum square footage allowed per section 318.100.104 of the Anderson Township zoning resolution. I move that the variance be approved, in that the variance is not substantial. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered, and adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Variance would not adversely affect delivery of government services. And I believe the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Oh, yes. Taking note to conform, I don't see, I guess, document numbers on here, but with the plans provided to the board this evening.
Dated November 16, 2012 on the letter, anyway.
Very good.
Any other friendly amendments or comments? Do you want to start and finish on this one?
It's a good question, good consideration. I don't know what the timing plans are.
I mean, our standard is kind of started in one and finish it in two.
That would be reasonable, I think.
It's not that big of a...
Start it within a year and finish it within 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. I'm good with that.
We have a motion.
I second that motion.
Betty, could you call the roll, please?
Brian Miller,
Aye.
Brian Sanders,
Aye.
Fred Hayes,
Aye.
Steve Taylor,
Aye.
Rick Oversmith.
Aye. We will go into recess for just a couple of minutes while staff prepares the formal actions for us to take. Go into recess for just a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty.
Oh, okay. I noticed that right away.
All right, we'll go ahead and come back out of recess and take a look at the resolutions in their typed form for us. So give us a second here to take a look at them. I got one right off the bat. If you, are you going to pull those up for us then? The very introductory paragraph still has the sidewalk in it. The original filing. If everybody's had a chance to look at it, probably need to consider some of the language in here.
The first sentence is, has upon an appeal and a request for a special use certificate. We are on 11-2012. So the
Yep.
matter was heard December 6, 2012, upon an appeal and a request for a variance.
Yeah, not a special use certificate.
Said variance request. In the fourth line, the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals grant a variance
Or variances.
Two variances.
or variances. Thank you. It's more appropriate.
Variances. See that? Oh, thank you.
And then, and a chain link fence 7 feet in height. And then the last sentence, in the absence of a sidewalk, then is
That-
struck.
That comes out. So we have an "and" in front of a chain link fence. See that? All right. Building height paragraph.
And if I could just add something on that, and I don't know if this is necessary or not, but the applicant did indicate a willingness to consider not having barbed wire. We've already stated that we're not regulating the barbed wire, so do we really have to have with barbed wire emphasized in the approval? Could we not just say 7 feet in height?
Is
Would the
that,
board- Is that okay, Allison? If the board agrees.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
It's not as though we're,
yeah, it almost is like we're requiring barbed
Barbed
wire.
wire.
Yeah, it's
right.
like we really, yeah, okay.
it's the height,
Thank
not
you.
that, yeah.
Nice catch, thanks.
Under that next paragraph, building height, the last sentence is the variance hereby granted by board with the following conditions, colon, and then it just goes to the fence.
I think that should be stricken, and
It's-
it really is, it occurs in the final
Correct.
paragraph on page 2.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So the last sentence under building height gets deleted. And I wonder whether there's a need to note of record. We talk about neighboring structures have received variance for a height of 65 feet. Should we note a record that the existing structure on the site is higher than the requested variance?
I think that's a
I
good
think
point.
that would be a
Yes.
good addition.
So
It
after
is,
65,
it is 65 feet as well, as
I think the testimony was 67. Is that right? So if we make the notation like that,
Line 3, under building height, interests, health, and safety to grant the
the
variance
variance.
and not conditional use.
Third line under building height. See that reference, Betty?
Yeah.
Variance.
In item 3, we stipulate governmental services of water, sewer, and garbage. We talked about fire. I think we ought to include fire in that.
Yeah,
Emergency services?
governmental,
Governmental and emergency services?
I think that's fine. We certainly,
The conditional use language is in here again in the first sentence under fence, where it should be variance. Safety to grant the variance for the following
Right.
reasons. This is just another. Then I'm on the backside page, there's just a misspelling of character.
Also, at the top of page 2, we have would suffer. It starts out with would suffer. It should be would not suffer.
I believe under 1, under fence, the variance is not substantial. I believe part of the reasoning it's not substantial is it's relative to the existing fence height. There's already lots of fences there to that height, so I'd suggest we maybe add relative to the existing fences.
Do you see what it says there, Brian?
second-
This
the next
style and
sentence.
height of fencing currently exists
Oh.
on site and has for some time? Does that adequately address?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So Allison's like, yeah, that's a good point.
It just appeared.
Am I missing, and I could very well be, the condition Mr. Hayes put on that it
I think,
would be limited to the,
I think number 3, the condition number 3 needs to be rewritten to make it clear that it's going to, identifying existing fences to be removed. I think somehow that's got to be rewritten to incorporate that the fence will not extend west of the barn area.
right.
And if I'm not going too far here, I think in the statement of why we're doing this, talk about the essential character of neighborhood not altered, adjoining properties not detriment as a result of the variance. I mean, I do think we should note that there are safety and security reasons to justify a fence of this height. We've heard testimony that it's required under the Ohio laws governing horsemen that they have, that they,
I don't believe that, it wasn't that it had to be 7 feet.
you think that it had to be fenced?
Just adequate.
It was just adequate. So
All right,
I'm thinking it's mainly just because it's what's there.
okay. All right, I'll withdraw that.
Allison, the drawings that I have are dated November 20th, not November 19th. Did I get some late drawings?
Oh, yeah, mine is stamped the 20th.
When we write these, we copy and paste from the resolutions and then tweak them from there.
Oh, okay.
Should be the 20th then, right?
Well, the drawings are actually dated the 16th on the drawings.
You want to say the drawings received November 20th?
We use our dates, I think.
Yeah.
Want to use the received date?
Okay, as received, okay. That, yeah.
So did we clean up number 3, or we still need to talk that through?
How do we have number 3 reading right now? All right, so we need to
Yeah, we need
say,
to-
Something like the fence will not extend west of the,
yeah, just add a sentence that says the.
Well, can we limit the fence only to that area around the barns? This variance only applies to that fence which is located around the barns.
Well, I think that's, the site plan only shows the fence around the barns except this extension along Kellogg.
Right.
That's what we want to limit.
So I think we should be pretty clear so that when staff picks this up in a couple months when they're looking at the construction drawings, that it,
Oh.
That those fences have been removed from the drawings, from the project.
and then, so I mean, I think if we say the permitted fencing will not extend west of the barn area, will that handle it for everybody?
Well, I'm thinking the fences is grandfathered, is it not? I mean, we're saying that they're requesting a variance for the fence around the barn area. The fencing to the west can remain,
I think we're saying we're going to,
but what we're saying is we would like it to be removed.
right.
Okay. Then, I'm just trying, Rick, I'm just trying to get an understanding of where, so that the variance is regarding the fence around the barn area and all the other fencing along, at least along Kellogg, would be removed.
West of the barn area.
Right.
yeah, the testimony was that that was a typo on the site plan.
Right.
And that was going to be removed, which indicates to me that the fence is not going to exist west of there.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
And then on number 4, we say, shall be constructed of materials compatible with the new development. I don't know if we went that far in our, as opposed to should be considered
I
or what.
believe,
Yeah, I think it's more of a consideration, is
Yeah.
a better word.
I believe it's something to the effect of the board requested the applicant consider, and the applicant indicated that they would consider a more aesthetic type fencing along there. I don't think they could answer that question definitively because of their security concerns, the demands of the regulators, et cetera. But I think it should be worded that we have encouraged that. The applicant indicated they are receptive to that idea of,
So should it say that the applicant is encouraged to consider materials compatible with the new development for the fence along Kellogg?
I'd say compatible and I would say more aesthetic, but more aesthetic than the existing conditions. Obviously, it's going to be a very pleasing building.
So you want to give them a sentence you want there that?
Let's see here. The board has encouraged and the applicant has indicated that they are receptive to considering constructing a fence along the Kellogg frontage that is more compatible with the new development and of a positive aesthetic look. The board has urged the applicant to consider a fence material that is compatible with the new development of a better aesthetic than the chain link and barbed wire. And the applicant has indicated they would be happy to consider that.
Along Kellogg Road. Along Kellogg Road.
Along Kellogg Road.
That's why there's architects in the world. Regulation of aesthetic issues.
Depends what you think.
The board has encouraged the applicant to consider a fence material that is more compatible with the new development and aesthetic along Kellogg Road frontage.
Sounds good.
That's fine.
Anything else on that one?
All right, so how do we want to handle this? Are you going to bring it up on the screen for us, or are you going to print out? You going to go ahead and print that while we start reading the next one?
Rick, why don't we start working on the next one? Let's
Well,
see if
they
we can't
print
get
that.
some prints of that
All right,
one.
yeah, because we want to see that one in hard
I think
copy.
so.
Well, we can be reading the next one.
The first sentence
Here
needs
we go
to have
again.
the same change of variance rather than special use.
It's further down in the second paragraph too, in the first sentence.
All right, I'll keep a running one and hand it to Betty.
Okay. Rick, the other one was on number 2 down there in the second paragraph. We did
Yeah.
the same mistake on the other one. It should be would not suffer a substantial detriment.
Wait a second. Not, yeah.
On number 1, do we want to say conformance with the plot plan and elevation? I think Mr. Sanders said conformance with the documents provided to us, but here it just says plot plan. I think we would want to include then the elevation drawing also.
All right.
What's the
I
date
think
on
we received it November. It's probably received.
Received, yep.
All right, I've got those changes picked up.
And it's not a big deal, but the proposed sign area will be proportional to the frontage of the high school. I'm down at the bottom of the second paragraph, as it is very, agreed, we did discuss it'd be proportional to the frontage of the high school. As it is very large, just seems
I'm
redundant
not sure
and
what we're
unnecessary.
referring to there. I guess
Right.
the
It's-
school
It is very large,
just says proportional.
yeah.
Proportional, I think is fine.
Removing the "as it is very large" at the end of item 4. Make sure you cut out the color of those. Any other comments to give them on the resolution in case 12?
On case 12, on the fourth line in the opening paragraph, we need to insert the variance and grant the variance. That's the only other one I caught.
Oh, yeah, I see it. See it? Thank you. All right, now we've got the retyped case 11 resolution before us.
Just a typo under building height, spelling of variance in the third line is all I saw on the
Third line of the second, of the building height paragraph on variance.
just a typo.
Yeah.
And then, I think under condition 1, we talk about a plot plan dated November 20th. I think in this case, we should probably refer to it as marked received December 20th. And it's a lot more than a plot plan, isn't it? What do we call these anyway? Are you guys okay with plot plan, or are we?
I noticed that too, and I guess on this one, I was more okay with plot plan because I'm not sure we're necessarily going to
Okay.
be wanting conformance to those drawings, and they may change as it progresses. The elevation.
Oh,
drawings
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
that's a good point.
I mean, they call it zoning compliance plan. I don't know if you'd rather just
That's a good
use
word.
that title.
Any other changes to the?
I had one other one in the, towards the end of the building height paragraph.
Yes.
And I thought we wanted to include fire in the list of water, sewer, garbage.
They did add emergency services.
I think we just
They
added
did add
emergency.
emergency services. Is that adequate?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
The only other one, too, is number 4 of the conditions. I just kind of need to read it out loud. The board has encouraged the applicant to consider a fence material that is more compatible with the new development and aesthetic. Should there be aesthetics along the Kellogg Road frontage? Is more compatible with the new development and aesthetics along the Kellogg Road frontage. Something. Something's
It
happening.
really meant to be a more aesthetic fence material.
Well, the restriction along the Kellogg
But I-
Road is that the aesthetics matter less to us in the back, right?
Right.
That's why the Kellogg Road frontage is in there.
The new development and the new aesthetic. I think that gets the point across.
That's fair. You're right. I'm overreading.
So on number one, we're just going to change that to say conformance with the zoning compliance plans received November 20th. On which one are you looking at? Oh, okay. Oh. Received. Yeah, because the dates on them are all over, depending on the sheet, but the received date is the one that we're going off of. I don't think we need to have those recirculated again if they've made the changes there.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve and journalize Case 11, 2012 BZA as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Betty, could you call the roll, please?
Brian Ellis.
Aye.
Brian Sanders.
Aye.
Fred Hayes.
Aye.
Steve Haver.
Aye.
Rick Hoopie.
Aye. Okay. Oops, we got the revised one on the school district, real quick. We still have reference to variance in the third, or conditional use in the third line of the second paragraph.
Is this a dated received?
It's a receipt because there's not a date on them at all. I don't think there is there?
There's a date on the packet at the top.
They're the same, though.
Okay. All right,
So I think that's okay.
all right.
I'll move, are you ready yet? Let's jump in there.
Whatever.
I'll make a motion in case 12-2012 BZA that the board approve and journalize the case as submitted with the revisions.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussions? If not, Betty, could you please call the roll?
Brian Ellis.
Aye.
Brian Sanders.
Aye.
Fred Hayes.
Aye.
Steve Haver.
Aye.
Rick Hoopie.
Aye.
Sweet.
Any further items before the board? If not, consider... oh,
I do
I'm
have
sorry.
one. I wanted to check the progress on our revised bylaws. Where do we stand on it?
Would Mr. Drury like to come to the microphone and tell us where we are in our revised
He's already
bylaws?
sworn in.
I am already sworn in, so I have to tell the truth. They're on my desk. By no fault of Betty and Allison, they are on my desk and ready for review, and that's where they are.
Ready for legal review or ready
Yes,
for
ready
our
for
review?
They do need to be reviewed by our legal, but we have not forgotten about them.
Good.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
No further business? We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.